Hi there, welcome back. It's Susan from SG Development Solutions. Now, I hope you've enjoyed the previous 5-minute coaching sessions and you've been able to put into practice some of the things that we've talked about. If you've already read the rest of the SG Survival Guide this month, you'll know that we're on the third and final part of our series on communication. So this month, what I want to talk to you about is difficult conversations. I speak to a lot of my clients about having difficult conversations, and often what I hear them saying is, Susan, look, I know I really need to have this conversation. I know it'll probably improve things, but I'm really worried about having the conversation. It's going to throw up all sorts of stuff. It's going to open a can of worms. It's just going to be really difficult to deal with, and I don't know how to have the conversation. I don't know what to say. I'm really worried about how to deal with the person's reactions. And that's the key thing. What I notice is one of the biggest reasons people avoid dealing with difficult conversations and tackling difficult situations is because of a fear of emotions. A concern about how the other person will react, and I suppose a concern about how we will react as well. Now, the thing is, emotions are natural things. We all respond in an emotional way to most situations, and when we perceive a threat in our environment, we respond with what's called our fight or flight response. It's a natural, primitive response that we have to keep us safe. Now, that threat can be real or perceived, it can be physical or verbal, and when somebody's giving us information that we might not be aware of and we might not like, we can see that as a threat and therefore respond in an emotional way. So I guess thinking about that and having that in our mind when we have a difficult conversation could help us to perceive it differently and therefore approach it differently. Think about a difficult conversation you've had recently. What were you saying to yourself prior to having that conversation? What was going on in your mind? Were you saying things like, oh, I know I should have this conversation, but I really don't want to. I know how they're going to react, and do you know what? Maybe things will just improve on their own. Maybe I'll deal with it tomorrow. Maybe I'll ask somebody else to deal with it. And if you've heard yourself saying any of these things, you're not alone. A lot of us try and sweep these things under the carpet and hope that they'll just get better. And usually they don't, unfortunately. Now just think about what that kind of internal dialogue is doing to your mental state. So when you go into that conversation, how are you feeling about it? Probably already a bit anxious, probably already a bit emotionally charged. And if you feel angry, upset, frustrated, whatever it might be, the emotion you have going into the conversation is likely to be picked up by the other person, and they will unwittingly match that emotion. And next thing you know, that's when you've got a highly charged emotional situation, and it makes having that conversation very difficult. So imagine that going into that conversation, that the person you're having the conversation with is genuinely unaware. They don't know about the behaviour you need to talk to them about. They don't know the impact they're having. And actually, imagine that they might even welcome that feedback because they can then improve on it. So if you go into the conversation with that kind of positive emotion of, I'm actually going to help this person, it will help you to have that conversation. It will help to deal with the emotions. So really what I'm saying is the first thing you need to do in dealing with a difficult situation is manage your own emotions. Think about how you currently feel and how you want to feel going into this conversation. And that, I can guarantee, will influence the other person's emotions. So think about a difficult conversation you need to have and think about these questions. How do you currently feel about that conversation? How would you like to feel about that conversation? How do you think the other person feels or will feel about the conversation? What outcome are you looking for? And what are the things you can do now and in the lead up to that conversation that will help to create the right environment to prepare both you and the other person for that conversation? Just imagine that the person you're having this conversation with is currently behaving from positive intentions. They don't know about the impact, they're not aware of the impact they're having. And actually, by opening up this dialogue, what you're doing is you're increasing the amount of information in your shared pool of understanding, which just means you can work together to improve on it. So what I'm saying is, it's not that you can take emotions out of the situation, but think about how you deal with them, how you plan and prepare for them, and start with managing your own emotions. Does that make sense?